Good morning, monsters, and welcome to this week's episode of Monsters on the Edge. Hopefully, we have the technical issues out of the way from last week's show. I rebooted the computer, and we should be good, hopefully. So, with that being said, guys, I am Barnaby Jones. I am your host here on the Untold Radio Network and the founder of Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. If you are not checking out what we do with Caps, you should be. Here's why. Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, spirits, and the metaphysical? How about Mothman, Bigfoot, and other cryptids? What about UFOs, UAPs, and other anomalous phenomenon? Then you need to check out Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. We have all that and more. Watch our series, Caps Road Trip, where we travel across the U.S. in search of these phenomena and bring you not only the history of these locations, events, and encounters, but evidence that we capture along the way. Alongside our team of researchers and investigators, you never know who will be joining in on the investigations. Are you interested in Bigfoot in Upper Michigan? Check out Finding Heighton, a series documenting the Sasquatch activity on a very special 80-acre property just outside of Menominee that has been a hotspot since 2012. Want even more? Check out our podcasts. Whispers from the Dark is the official podcast of Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society and brings you interviews with the top names in the field of paranormal to cryptids and more. Hear witnesses' accounts and go in-depth with the CAPS team to hear more about our ongoing research. Are you more into cryptids? Find links to our all-cryptid show, Monsters on the Edge, on the Untold Radio Network. If you're into spooky, subscribe now and you won't miss a minute of our brand new series coming soon, Spirits of Macville. Follow along as we uncover the haunted history dating back to 1877 of a very well-known location you may have never guessed would be haunted. Head on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button and you won't miss a minute. That's right, guys, and our brand new series, Spirits of Menominee, also just debuted. Spirits of Macville is coming soon. We have new Finding Heighton episodes coming out, and another new episode coming up in the end of January here of the Haunted Cicero Church in Cicero, Illinois. So that's coming out too, guys. All right. Welcome to the show here. If you want even more from us, you can also check out our show On the Trail of Undiscovered Beasts, streaming exclusively on Paraflix Paranormal Plus. You can get 10% off your first 3 months with promo code CAPS10. That's all about Bigfoot in Wisconsin. If you want to show our support and wear it, you can head on over to our store at wisconsincaps.com. Click on Shop Our Store, and you can find everything with our logo and awesome stuff like that. And while you're online, you can head on over to all of our social media platforms. You can find us at Wisconsin Caps on Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, or WI Caps on Instagram. All those links are at wisconsincaps.com. And if you are interested in Bigfoot in Upper Michigan, as I know you are if you're listening to this show, you can get my brand new book co-authored by Craig Sulk. It is available now on Amazon.com, 248 full-page color photos, all documenting the strange stuff happening on Craig's property in Upper Michigan. It's available on Amazon.com. Bigfoot is Hyden, Hyden. If you'd like an autographed copy, you can head on over to Wisconsin Caps and order it there. If you want to see the team in person, Hodag Heritage Festival, Rhinelander, Wisconsin, May 18th, 4th annual event. We will be there. We will also be at the Marinette Menominee Bigfoot and Paranormal Convention on June 1st. If you want to come out to the convention and go on a Bigfoot expedition with myself and Rich Daniels, you can come out and do that May 31st, the night before the convention. Tickets are limited for that event, but you can get them at wisconsincaps.com or on Facebook, the Marinette Menominee Bigfoot and Paranormal Convention. Also, I am going to be doing a series of library talks this summer. The first ones are up here February 6th. You can find me in Cudahy, Wisconsin. June 17th, Brookfield, Wisconsin. June 20th, Belleville, Wisconsin. And October 30th, Edgerton, Wisconsin. All right. I think that's it for that. Then, if you want to show your support for all things here at the Untold Radio Network, here's how.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
All right, guys. I have no doubt that today's show is going to be awesome and fun and very, very covering a wide range of topics. My guest today is Dewey Edwards. He was born and raised in Robertson County, Tennessee, and married to his childhood sweetheart, Deloris, for 52 years. He has 3 daughters, 5 grandchildren. He is a paranormal investigator and founder of Cryptids and Critters Paranormal Research. And he's the author of 10 books. Awesome. He has a brand new one that's coming out here. He has also ghost written and published 3 other books as well. His hobbies include ghost hunting, cryptids and paranormal research and investigating, handguns, fishing, genealogy, old cemeteries, documentation and restoration, and writing historical, newspaper, and magazine articles. This sounds like a blast. So without any further ado, please welcome to our show our guest today, Dewey Edwards. Hello.
Hello. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. You are a wealth of all kinds of stuff. You kind of follow along in what we do at CAPS, just everything, right?
I try my best to. If I'm not writing, I'm building something. I've always been a handyman, I guess you'd call it. I build a lot of my own paranormal investigation equipment, and I built a REM pod. I even built a small Tesla coil. I'm experimenting with the EMF pump right now. I built a pretty good pump, and I want it to be a little more powerful. And just a few little things like that I'm building. I built a lot. I should have got one of them out before I sit down. A lot of trigger devices. I took like a teddy bear, when you put an alarm system in it, and make it into a kind of like a REM pod. I've got one Elmo. I usually go around to some of the flea markets and antique malls, and I'll look for these old toys and stuff, and I'll kind of upgrade them and put electronics in them to make them where they will sense things, So that's kind of fun to do,
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Awesome.
I've got most of my equipment in these Apache cases, like you get at Harbor Freight, and I got tired of having to open all the cases up and plug all the cables in, so I pre-wired them all. I got my cables in them, and I put the USB or a 110 power cord on the back of them, where I can actually plug the cord in, and they're plugged in inside, so they'll charge while I've got them stored here in my ghost hunting room. So.
Nice. Awesome. Very cool. Very, very technically sound there, man. Awesome. So what got you? Go ahead.
These are some, if you can see them or not.
Yep. Dowsing rods.
Dowsing rods. And I put a copper handles on them that will swivel. There's no restriction at all in these. They will swivel. You can't hold them back. And a lot of people have a tendency to hold a dowsing rod too tight if they want to react right. But these they'll swivel of their own. So they're kind of aggravating in the wind, but they work great for that. I made a few of them, and I give Jesse Doyle a new set of them, and I like to tinker with stuff like that.
That's cool. Very cool, man.
Kind of keeps me busy.
What got you started into all this? Did you have an experience, or what happened?
I had my first paranormal experience when I was 6 years old. My uncle had got killed on a tractor. The tractor overturned on him, and our neighbors had come down to the house to help get the crops in after he passed away. We lived on a farm, and my mother sent me up the house to get my cousin a cap, to get Uncle John's hat he always wore. He got an old brown felt hat, and he always wore it. And but Pete showed up and didn't have a hat with him. The sun was pretty hot that day, so Mother sent me to the house to get his cap. So I walked in the house, opened the closet door, and the closet door snatched out of my hand and slammed shut. There wasn't a bit of wind or anything blowing that day. So I thought, well, it's kind of odd, but I grabbed it and pulled it back open again and reached my hand in there, and the door almost slammed on my arm. I mean, So I went back and told my mother, I said, if Pete wants a hat, he can go get his hand. I'm not going to do it. That was my first experience with something like that. And I knew it was Uncle John keeping me from letting him wear his cap. The next one, I was 11 years old when I saw my first full body apparition. Me and my brother both saw it. We lived in this old rental house, and it was cold. It was cool at night, and we slept in the back part of the house. There was no heat back there. The nearest heat was an old big pot-bellied stove in the kitchen, about 2 rooms away, and my sister had the next room, and we had the one in the very back of the house. And I just happened to wake up and look, and there was this girl standing there, and she had on like a house coat, but you could tell it was just like a smoky appearance. You could see her, but it just like you could see through her too, kind of translucent. And I woke my brother up, and he saw her too, so we kind of scared us. So we kind of covered our heads up, and I peeped out at every couple 3 minutes, looked out, and she was there for a couple 3 times. And then the last time I looked, she was gone. But she was standing in front of the window. The window was, and we didn't even have a window like that. In fact, there wasn't a window in the wall there where she was standing at. There was like a double sash window. It was standing open like this. The wind was blowing in. The curtains were blowing in the wind. So was her hair and her gown too, And like I said, there wasn't even a window in the house at that point. And so we kind of covered our heads up, went off to sleep. And next morning we said something to my father about it. He didn't say too much about it, but we talked to the landlord the next day or two. He came down to check on his cattle, and we approached it with him, asked him if anything had ever happened in the house. And he says, no, well, at least the only thing I know what happened. He says, when I was a young kid, he said the house caught on fire. And he says the back part of the house burned off. And I said, I remember helping them pack water out of the cistern to get it put out. They wouldn't let me go in where the fire was at. They let me bring water up into the house, with buckets, and they got the fire put out. He said the back part of the house burned off. He says that my aunt burned up in the house. His aunt perished in the fire. And I'm pretty sure that's what we were seeing. And I've talked to people that lived there before we did and after we did. The old house is gone now. They raised it and pushed it up in a big pile and burned it. But I asked the people that I knew that lived there before we did and afterwards, and nobody had ever seen anything. So we're the only ones that actually witnessed that. So I'm thinking that that may have been the anniversary of the fire. Maybe when we saw it, it's a residual, it may have been the anniversary of it, or the other people just weren't home at that time to see it, so. But I reckon I'm the only one left alive, that actually witnessed this, But it's been it's several things. I mean, and after that, it just kind of mushroomed after that. It just kind of picked up, and I guess once you see something like that, it just kind of, I guess it grows on you, I guess, but.
Wow. So then,
you've experiences.
Yeah, you've had all these paranormal experiences. So obviously you believe in the paranormal.
Oh, yes.
You've had these experiences and stuff, but you've also done stuff with cryptids and Bigfoot and that. So where's the transition from having the paranormal into now researching Bigfoot and exploring that avenue as well?
I can blame that on my friend Martin Groves. He kind of got me into that. he was going down to Land Between the Lakes and doing. He had an encounter down there, back in the 90s, and he got me to go down there with him. In fact, it happened so long ago he couldn't remember exactly where his campsite was at. He knew in a general area, but I went down there with him a couple of 3 times, and we got the maps out and topo maps and things like that. And he was describing there was a cemetery, close by up on the hill, and the driveway going off into his campsite was level with the road. It was no uphill or downhill, to get to it. And we just kind of got to looking, and sure enough, we found his where his campsite was at, and it was very, very emotional for him too. He took it pretty hard when we found it. I said all those memories come flooding back. First time he'd been there since the 80s, and but it was that's kind of got me started in that. So we started doing little explorations down there and stuff, and going out and finding stuff. We was getting these reports from people they had been seeing stuff, so we'd kind of go down and check it out, talk to a few people. And in fact, we were down there this past Thursday and talked with a guy that he lives on the edge of the lake. He don't live on LBL, but right across this little lake behind him is the LBL. He's talking about he was hearing heard a lot of things over there. Said he went out and sitting on the porch smoking a cigar a few months ago, and just a hoot owl or the barred owl, whatever, hollered out of the woods, and he answered it back. And I said the first time and the only time he'd ever answered one of them back. Said he'd never do it again. But he said something took off running through the woods and was coming toward him. It sounded like he got out into the water, and he run down and got his spotlight, but he couldn't see anything. But he could hear it in the water, and said finally it turned around, went back, and it left. It went back up on the shore and went up into the woods. He could hear it running through the woods. So it was kind of that was a good interview we had with him. So that's kind of what got me started into that. Of course, I wrote a book, Season of the Critters, and that's kind of about the things that happened in LBL. I broke it down into there's some stuff in Kentucky, Tennessee, and all of the surrounding counties around where I live at have all been pretty active as far as sightings. In fact, my wife's uncle, he has a lot of activity around his house. We've been there a couple of times investigating, and that's where I got a real loud. We were there in the front yard. I had my parabolic set up, but I was looking in the other direction. He had been seeing some things there up on the TVA power line, and I had it sitting in that direction, and we were sitting there talking. We had a little fire built up in the fire ring, and all of a sudden I hear this whoop come out of the woods, and about that time the barred owls, they went crazy. They come flying out of the woods. So whatever this thing was, run them out. And but he's been seeing a lot of stuff there. He said he was going to his father's house. He was doing some plumbing back a few years ago. About maybe 3 years ago, and doing some plumbing at his father's house. And he went down there to see what he had to have, and he happened to notice, and there was 3 cedar trees up in the TVA power line, or what he thought was cedar trees. And he didn't think much about it, and he went back and was doing he got his parts and was doing his plumbing work. Says he got to thinking, they just mowed that, a couple 3 months ago, and those cedar trees wouldn't grow back that quick, So he went back. He happened to think and look as he went by it the next time, which is between him and his father's house, and they were still there, but they had moved. And he knew cedar trees didn't get up and move and walk away. So he got his stuff. He went back, and sure enough, last time he went by there, they were gone. But they've been hearing a lot of heavy something running through the woods, these hoops and howls and all. So we're going to do an active investigation there as soon as the weather gets to where I can get back in there. Warm weather, the ticks and the chiggers will eat you alive back in there. So, and the snakes too. So we're going to go back while it's cold and do a good night investigation so we can find on that. But yeah, we had a critter here. They called it a critter in Robertson County back in the 60s. They called it the Cars Creek critter. And I wrote about it in my book too. That's why I call my book Season of the Critter. Nobody, a lot of people have supposedly seen it. A lot of people had heard it. They had every little animal they found that was killed was blamed on this critter. Every rabbit, every dog, every cat, squirrels or whatever, was blamed on this critter killing it. And I think it showed up in 1966, and it was about a year time, and it kind of just went on its own way. But everything that they had seen was blamed. Everything they had heard or seen, was blamed on this critter. Several people had seen it. Everybody described it as looking differently. Some said it looked like a bear. Some said it was a hyena. Some said it was a mangy dog. Everybody had a different description for it. So I did talk to a guy. He says that he hoaxed the whole thing. I talked him into an interview one day. He says he hoaxed it, but I'm not sure he did or not, because there were some things that happened in that area before. He says, the time of area when he supposedly hoaxed it, But if he did, he went to a lot of trouble to hoax it. I know he said he was out there one night and he let out this big loud howl, and there was a bunch of fire department and the county deputies were in the field looking for this thing. And it says suddenly a spotlight hit the tree right beside him, and shots rang out. So he dropped down, hit the ground, and creeped back to the house, and never did go back. So I don't know if that was part of his hoax or not, but said that was the last performance he ever did. Trying to imitate the Carrs Creek critter.
Wow. Well, now you mentioned a couple different descriptions there. So do you think that you have just Bigfoot down there, or do you have, I've heard like dogman creatures as well in that area?
I'm thinking it's mostly Bigfoot. I have never, I've seen what I think may have been one. I'm not sure. A dog man, I don't ever want to meet. I don't think, if there is such a thing, I don't want to meet one of them. I don't think. There's some activity here in the county. In fact, I went out back, I wish it'd been a few months ago, and I was emptying out this little plastic pan I had some dust and stuff in it. And I went down to the little creek down there. In fact, I was working on my fish pond, which is down close to the little creek. And I went down there and took the pan and dumped it out, and hit it about 3 times with my hand, just break the dust loose from it. And it had a good, almost a wood knock sound to it, because it kind of amplified it the way the pan was shaped. And I turned around and walked back toward the fish pond to finish up what I was doing. And I get 3 tree knocks out of the woods, and there's no house back there. If there was somebody back there, they were, trespassing actually, but, and then, I went and got my wife, and we went on the back porch, and I tried it again, and I set my parabolic up before we did anything, and I imitated it again, but the wood knocks came from the opposite direction of where I had my parabolic pointed at. So I don't know if it's another one there or what it is. My neighbor just told me this the other day that she had a big crock pot, and she set the liner in it, set it out, I guess for the dogs to eat or whatever, to dump it out, and it come up missing, and it's pretty heavy. She has a couple of smaller pit bulls, but they didn't have the strength to pick it up and pack it off, and we don't know where it went. So something picked this thing up and walked off with it. Too heavy for a raccoon to pick up. We've got a lot of raccoons around here. Too heavy for that, and it had to been something with hands to actually pick this thing up. And so I don't know what the deal was on that. But the area around Greenbrier, where my wife's uncle lives, it was very active. There's been several people there that have seen stuff. In fact, they had one I think it may have killed a pony. They found a pony down in the creek, and his throat was ripped out. And years ago, supposedly, they went down to the barn, heard a noise in the barn, and went down to the barn. And this big hairy creature come out of the side of the barn, and had a pig under each arm, a smaller pig, and took him off into the woods. So all kind of stuff going on there. But Greenbrier area, Ridgetop area is pretty active, with Bigfoot, I'd call it. But It's I said I've never seen one, but we went to Land Between the Lakes. It's back in, I think it was back in early fall, late summer, early fall. We met Seth Breedlove, Small Town Monsters. We're doing a documentary on Bigfoot and Dogman and LBL. And I wasn't supposed to be in it, but the other guy didn't. Something happened. He didn't show up. So I kind of filled in for him. But we were going, we went in through the north end in the Kentucky side. We come through Cadiz, Kentucky, headed toward Lake Barkley. Right before we crossed over the river, I just happened to look, and there was a pickup truck sitting over there. And I guess it was either one of the rangers, LBL rangers, or a forestry or a fishing game or something to that effect. And I just happened to look, see what he was doing. He was standing there by his truck looking with binoculars and looking out in the middle of the field. And I looked up, and there's something big and black in the middle of this field. I mean, it's bigger than a bear. It looked kind of like a bear. It had kind of the shape of a bear, but if it was a big one. And I thought, well, maybe it was a buffalo, but it's too dark for a buffalo. The coloration wasn't right. And so I got her, my wife, she was driving, got her to go down the road and turn around. And the next turnaround we got to and go back where I could look. Well, by that time, this ranger was out in the middle of the field walking toward where this thing was at, and this thing was gone. We weren't gone with just maybe a minute to get turned around. And so this thing was pretty quick to get plumb out of sight, as wide as this field was. He was walking across the field, so we went on up and turned around to come back, and he was already across the field into the woods by that point. I don't know what it was. I tried to find a park ranger or something the rest of that day when I could, to see what the original radio call or whatever it was. If somebody had seen it and reported it, or if I just happened to see it, I didn't get a guy to come out of one of the offices there. Of course, it's run by Forestry Service, Bureau of Land Management, and all of them too. And I asked him, I said, if anybody had a report on it or anything. He didn't know anything about it. And I told him what I had seen. He said, it may have been a bear. We've had bear here before. Or maybe it was a buffalo, one of the bison that got out, And I said, well, the coloration wasn't right for either one of those. If it was a bear, it was a big one, He said, maybe it was our Sasquatch, And I said, well, that's what I'm thinking. So he just kind of laughed and walked on off, But I never could find anybody to tell me what actually it was, But LBL has its own unique feeling about it. So I don't know.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. We are going to take a really quick break here for station identification. We are talking with Dewey Edwards, author and cryptid and paranormal researcher. And if you guys have any questions, get them in the comments, and we'll be right back after this break.
Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
All right, we are back. Now, you have a brand new book out right here. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what it's about, and where people can get it?
All righty. Yeah, this book, 12 O'Clock High, the Captain Thomas Mantell Jr. UFO chase. I used to work in Franklin, Kentucky, where this crash happened at. In fact, it was kind of odd. Captain Mantell was born in Franklin, Kentucky, and he died in Kentucky, but that's the only 2 times he was ever there. His parents were visiting friends up a little bit north of Franklin, and she went into labor, and he took her to the nearest hospital, which was in Franklin, Kentucky. And that's where he was born, and after that, he went home. They actually moved back to Louisville. Captain Mantell was a World War II hero. He flew on the Normandy invasion, D-Day. He was flying a Skytrain plane towing gliders. And he had done made 3 or 4 drops, but the last flight he went on, he run into heavy artillery. They almost took the back end of his plane off. They did break 4 control cables, tore off part of the rear part of the plane. The tail wheel landing gear was shot, tore up. The left wing of the plane was almost totally destroyed, and but he kept flying. The plane caught on fire. He had some of his crew helping put the fire out, and a couple of mechanics were trying to get the cables repaired where he could, at the back of the plane where he could fly it. And he knew, I know he was thinking the whole time, what's going to happen when I turn this glider loose? He's using the glider as enough drag to keep the plane, under control. But I know he's thinking, what's going to happen when I turn this glider loose, But sure enough, he got the glider turned loose. He hit the landing zone. He turned around, went back to base. I think it's about a 100-mile flight or something like that. And that when he finally got it landed, they come out and inspected the plane and told him there's no way he flew that plane. That plane was declared unflyable. There's no way he flew in the plane. But he got the Distinguished Flying Cross and several other awards, medals. He came back stateside, got out of the when his term was up. He got out of the military. He was 25 years old. He opened his own flight school. He loved flying. In fact, they said when he was a child, he had these model planes hanging off the ceiling in his room. He opened his own flight school, and then they formed the Kentucky Air National Guard, and he was one of the first members of it. And they give him he was captain, promoted to captain, and he flew around, done a few missions and all. But anyway, they sent them to Marietta, Georgia, to I think Dobbins Air Force Base, I think it was, and to bring back 4 P-51 Mustangs that had been there, parked there for bad weather. And that's something I'm still working on. I haven't found the answer to it yet, and I may not ever find it. But how those 4 P-51 Mustangs of the Kentucky National Air Guard, what they were doing in Atlanta, Marietta, Georgia. And another question is were they assigned these planes, if they were their own planes that they were assigned to, or they just picked 4 people out at random and sent down to bring these planes back? But they got in a C-47 and flew down on January the 6th of 1948 and went down to bring the planes back. They spent the night, and they got up the next morning and went over the planes, made sure everything was good on them, serviced them, and inspected them and all, and took off coming back to Louisville. In the meantime, they had been seeing this UFO over Kentucky. It was seen in Louisville. It was seen at Fort Knox. And all around that area of Kentucky, this UFO had been sighted. And they couldn't identify it. The last time it was seen was over Fort Knox. And there was at least 4 generals and several other high-ups that couldn't identify. They all looked at it through binoculars and couldn't identify what it was. So they were going to dispatch somebody to go check it out. And just so happened that Captain Mantell and 3 of his wingmen were approaching the area. So they got in contact with them on the radio and asked somebody to go check it out. Captain Mantell and 2 of his wingmen went to check this out. The other guy that was flying with him, he was low on fuel in his plane, and he went on back to base. They turned him loose. He went on back to base. So Captain Mantell outdistanced his 2 wingmen. They had trouble in trying to keep up with him. This P-51D Mustang had a 1,650 horsepower V12. I keep wanting to say Hewlett Packard. It was a Packard. Rolls-Royce Packard Merlin. Get right here in a minute. And anyway, it was rated at 1,600 something horsepower, And I think the top speed was like 450 mile per hour or something in that range. But anyway, he had trouble catching this thing. So anyway, he finally got close enough to it, and he said that it was his wingman asked him what they were after, because they hadn't seen it yet. And he told him, look, 12 o'clock high. And he says, it's large, metallic, and there's nobody knows exactly what was said. These radio conversations weren't recorded, and all we got is maybe just a few bits and pieces of transcriptions that people may have thought they had heard, But he goes up. He tells me he's going up to 25,000 feet to check it out for 10 minutes. He's going to come back down. Well, this P-51 Mustang is not equipped with oxygen. Well, it had the manifold and all in it, but there was no tank or mask with it that day. And that's why I wonder if they were assigned, because one plane did have oxygen, the one of his wingmen got. And I'd always wondered what would have happened if Captain Mantell had got the plane with the oxygen and the other wingman had got the one without it, But anyway, he flies up 25,000 feet, and he's one of them. He calls for hot guns. He wants permission to fire on this thing if he has to. His two wingmen realized they were too high for that oxygen, and they supposedly turned back. Now there's also the idea that he may have sent them back to get their guns loaded. And this P-51 had 6 50 caliber machine guns, 3 in each wing, and enough belts for I've got how many hundreds of rounds, thousands of rounds. But anyway, his two women go back. He's flying up, and he says one of the conversations he supposedly had was, "Oh my God, I see people in this thing," and he said it had observation windows. He saw people in the thing, and he was up about 25,000 feet. Anyway, he keeps going up. They think he may have been hallucinating, because lack of oxygen. But he went up to about 30,000 feet, and anyway, he blacks out for lack of oxygen, slumps over the controls, or the plane leveled off itself. He comes spiraling down to the ground, wide open. He's leaning up forward on the controls. The throttle is wide open. He's got in a deep nosedive because he don't know it. He's passed out. And a lot of people in Franklin, Kentucky heard it and saw it. In fact, I talked to one of the guys who's one of the witnesses of the crash just at my book signing last Saturday. And he was 7 years old. His sister was 4. And another guy was 7. They're all 3 still living. I keep in close contact with them pretty regular. But anyway, he come crashing down. And all the newspaper reports you read say the plane exploded in midair. Well, there was an explosion heard, but it wasn't the plane exploding. It's either one of two things or both of two things. He's coming down in free air, wide open. This engine is only rated at 3,000 RPM. One possibility is this plane, the engine exploded. The engine blew up, come apart. That was the noise I think the people heard, thought it was an explosion. I know for a fact the engine was not turning when he hit the ground because the propeller blades. This thing hit one propeller blade at the 6, just say we got one at 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock position. The one at the 6 o'clock position, the one at the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position actually broke off when this plane hit the ground, laying beside the plane at the wreckage. The one at the 12 o'clock position was sticking straight up in the air, still attached to the prop dome. And when they lifted the plane up after they got through their investigation to load up on a truck, the one at the 6 o'clock position came out of the ground. So it went straight down into the ground, but it was still attached too, which tells me there if that engine had been running when he hit the ground, all 4 of those prop blades would have been sheared off. So anyway, we went to it was a very horrific crash. He was, when they talked, the undertaker said that his body was nothing but mush. The only thing holding it together was his flight suit. Part of the canopy come off and took off part of his top part of his head, top part of his skull. There was a little note on one of the diagrams that showed where they had found this at. But the guy I talked to, that was a witness to the crash, said a couple of days later, after the crash, their dog came dragging this up into their yard. And so, so his father got it and took it to Louisville and gave it to the undertaker, where they buried him. So hopefully he got it up there before they actually buried him. Hopefully he got buried with him. There's a lot of discrepancy. A couple of reports I found said that he was buried in a lead-lined coffin. And I don't know why they would bury somebody in a lead-lined coffin unless there was some radioactivity involved in it. I did take my Geiger counter up to the History Center in Franklin, and they do have a little small piece of the plane, maybe a 6-inch circle, and it's in a display case, and it's back about a foot deep back into the case. And I put my Geiger counter up to it, and it went up to 68 counts per minute. I mean, not enough to be dangerous, but it's enough there that something's radioactive. But anyway, they sent the Air Force down, or Air Guard down from Standerford Field in Louisville to do the initial investigation. Well, they got there that night. The guy that normally did the investigations wasn't even notified about it till 24 hours later. Now, why they sent this other crew down the first time, I don't know if they were trying to cover up stuff or what. Who knows? But then they got this guy to go in, but he checked everything out. That was supposed to be the first case that the Ruppelt picked up after when they formed Project Blue Book. That was one of but then they found out that all the paper files had been destroyed and everything was on microfilm. Then they found out the microfilm had been severely damaged. So he almost had to start over. I mean, so the engine, the reports I've had said the engine was taken to Wright-Patterson, which I'm pretty sure it was the whole plane, and the whole plane went there. And I'd love to find it. I'd love to find it. The guy up there at the History Center, Billy Wilkerson, he's a good friend of mine. They have the ground penetrating radar there at Simpson County, and we took it out to the scene, went to the crash site, and we nailed down exactly the debris field, you might say. This plane crashed. They picked it up, put it on a truck or two trucks, and drove out through the field with it. Well, they got stuck in the field. Had to take a dozer and push them out. Anyway, we got up and found when they got the plane up, there was a hole there. It was probably, this guy, when he talked, he was probably 3 or 4 feet deep. And they piled everything they couldn't put on the truck, pitched off in this hole and covered it up. Just covered it up, which shows full of dirt. They didn't bury it deep. Now, this guy that owned the place, he took a tractor and a disc and went around it several times and got it all covered up and leveled up where his cattle could run on it, But we did find the hole where the most stuff's at. It's showing about 3 feet deep. The ground penetrating radar showed it up. We also found the 2 ruts going across the field to where the trucks actually left the scene and went out on the road. They had to cut a fence and cut some trees down in the fence row to make a place for it to come out. So we did find all that. So we know exactly where the crash was at. But it's been a good. I've got every newspaper article I can find, every magazine, every photo I can find of Captain Mantell, all kind of reports, the Blue Book reports, all kind of stuff in this book. It's 450 pages, so it's a lot of work went into it. A lot of work went into it. But it's been I don't know. You do that much work on somebody, you kind of get close to them, Mm-hmm. You get attached to him. I knew everything about him, where he was born and everything. And I first went to the crash site. It was was very emotional. I mean, it was just very emotional. I sat out there in the road out there and probably cried for 3 or 4 minutes before I even able to drive off. I mean, it was very emotional for me, And we had a Captain Mantell Day in Franklin, Kentucky last January, and I got to meet one of his grandsons. I met one of them. He was there in person. His brother was lives in Georgia. He couldn't make it, so he met with us on a Zoom call, and I got to talk to him. But anyway, we're real good friends. We talk on Facebook or chat all the time, just about. And they wrote the forewords for the book for me, so they've been real helpful, And I found out a lot of things on them that they didn't even know, I did a lot of their genealogy and stuff like that. So even the Mantell's parents and grandparents were World War I heroes, So it's kind of runs in the family, But it's been interesting, to work on this.
Absolutely. I think that's one of my favorite things now, doing paranormal and cryptid and stuff, is looking into the history of these things, because not even just the history of that event, but digging around and you stumble on all this other interesting stuff that has nothing to do with what you were looking for. And you dive down all these other rabbit holes and stuff. And it's just an amazing journey that you get to go on to research this stuff.
Oh, it is. It is great. It is great. We're going to do, we didn't know if it'd be in tune to it or not. We got the landowners that own the property. They're going to let us do an archaeological dig. We're going to, as soon as the weather, but it's going to try to get it done. The Small Town Monsters is going to do a documentary on this. In fact, they've already started doing some filming on it. And, but we wanted them to be present when we did this dig. But it's hard to get everybody. We wanted the Mantell brothers to be there, plus Small Town Monsters with this film crew and everything, and then plus me and the guy that's going to do the work with the excavator. But we just can't get everybody together. I mean, well, I can do this, but I can't do that. Well, I can do this one, but I can't do that. So we were going to try to do it after Thanksgiving, before the weather got too bad, and nobody could get together. So we'll try for the week during Christmas break, school break, because one of the guys, he's a school teacher, and that didn't work out either. So we're going to just try to catch a good break in the weather and just pick a day, and we're just going to set up several cameras around it, and then just do what we're going to do, and maybe they can use that in the film. Maybe, I don't know. I built a couple of shaker boxes so we can actually throw the dirt in, and sift through it, and see what we got. But there should be a lot of pieces of this plane, should be a lot of pieces of everything. It showed we hit the metal. We took a metal detector up there, and we had 150 flags all over that area field there. We had a hit on the metal detector, and we'd put a flag up. Kind of getting a pattern of where everything's at. That's when we kind of got it nailed down as to where the crash site was actually at. A lot of things have changed. We were trying. The crazy part was we were trying to get a measurement, even with the drone, and even with the tape measure, of what the original report showed. The original drawing showed, as far as so many feet from 150 yards from the house, things like that. Well, the measurements were working out. I was talking to the guy up there at the book signing the other day that was a witness to it, and he says, also, when I bought that place, says I tore the old house down. He says we built another house back behind it, so that's why our measurements were working out. The old house that was referenced in all the old drawings wasn't there anymore. So that's one reason it didn't work out. But you just run up on all kind of little neat stuff, doing that. I tried to meet with. Well, I did meet with the undertaker. Well, the guy, he's the coroner up there now, trying to find a coroner's report, on this, and he didn't know of one. He didn't have any access to it, and but the other report I read said that he wasn't buried in the cemetery at all. that they interred his body in cold storage for a future study. So I don't know. Maybe that was the reason for the lead lining in the coffin, to show you couldn't X-ray it. I mean, you wouldn't be able to X-ray it from above ground.
Mm-hmm.
You also add weight to it too, to make the pallbearers think there's somebody in there. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those mysteries. I guess we'll never know. 'Cause I wouldn't even think about even trying to think about exhuming or anything like that. That'd be out of the question. But it's just a mystery to me.
Wow. Absolutely.
Just a mystery.
Very good.
Some things we'll never know, I guess.
Oh, wow. Well, you got such an amazing background, everything here, going from paranormal to cryptids to UFO research and stuff. If anybody has any questions, we're coming up on the end of the show here, so get them in the comments, and anything that has to do with any of that stuff that we've talked about today, put them in there, and we'll try and get them in before the end of the show. So have you received any other reports and stuff from the area of UFO activity, like prior to this, or, like you said that they saw this object up there, but was there any other reports around there surrounding that?
There was a lot of reports that came out of Franklin. They seen this real bright orange glowing ball, like a ball of fire, shot through the sky. The general consensus of the government was, he first said he was chasing Venus, which that stayed out there for about 2 years, and that got completely debunked. That's something that Hynek, I think it was, came out with that one, and then he finally disproved it himself that it wasn't right. So then they had to grasp at something else. So then the next thing comes up is a weather balloon.
Yeah.
As usual, weather balloons catch a lot of they catch a bad rap. But anyway, it was supposed to be this top secret skyhook weather balloon, and which the skyhook was not a weather balloon; it was a spy balloon. It was not a weather balloon at all. It was a new style of balloon that was top secret. Nobody knew about it, and I think it was like maybe 100 and something feet tall and 100 and something feet wide when it was fully inflated. They would only put just enough either helium or hydrogen or whatever in it just to get it started aloft a little bit. And as it went up through the atmosphere, as the pressure decreased in the upper atmosphere, this balloon would swell up large, bigger. And but if that weather balloon can travel 450 miles per hour, then it must have been one heck of a balloon,
A lot of updraft winds and stuff up there, and
and if it wind had been that, there's no way a plane could have stayed in there at that, no way. But
wow,
what else am I
very
going to say
interesting.
about that?
Very interesting, man.
But that was the general, and I reckon it's still the general consensus of the government that it was a weather balloon, or the skyhook balloon.
Did the other two wingman pilots see anything while they were up there, or just him?
They saw something, but they couldn't. One of them said it looked metallic and large to him. And that's only this sergeant that was he was in the control tower that day. He met with the family, and I'm trying to think of what this name of this show was. It wasn't Alien Endgame, but it was one. I think it may have been Alien Endgame that he was on. He finally got to meet with the family and told them what he had heard. And he also backed it up. He says that there were people in it. He saw people in it. He'd called for hot guns, which he recognized it was a threat. And he passed away a little while after that, But yeah, he met with the family. It was very emotional for them too. His name was I have to look it up and I get his name now. Quentin Blackwell, Sergeant Quentin Blackwell. But it's I'd love to have talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I'd love to find when we do this excavation is I would love to find a 50 caliber shell casing. Either fired or unfired. I want to know if his guns were actually loaded and ready to go. The machine gun belts on the P-51D Mustang were in the wings, and they had a door on top. You'd open up and you load it in, and put the machine gun chain in the wing. Both wings got tore off this plane when it crashed. Surely a shell went somewhere up there. Maybe, I don't think they would have been able to recover all of them. I was thinking that at first that the plane was actually only there for just a couple, 3 days, or a day or two, after the crash. But the guy that witnessed it said it was there for at least 1 week and maybe 2 weeks before they actually moved the plane out of the field, so they were doing this investigation and stuff on it. And they even commented it was the way the plane crashed was very uncharacteristic of a plane crash like that. So that like it just come in like this and just went down. That's when that prop went down into the ground. That's what forced that prop into the ground. But they just kind of, I don't know. I've got several pictures of the crash. Been trying to go through them and all, been pick out things out of them, and I don't know. It's just still a mystery to me. Still a lot of things to find out. Somebody said that one of the reports said that he got too close to this thing. He said it was actually like toying with him. It actually let him get close and it would speed off, and then slow down. He'd catch up with it and speed off again. And the last time he got close to it, somebody said he may have got too close to it, and when this thing took off, the propulsion wash from this craft or whatever actually hit the plane, and it may have contaminated, with radioactivity. I don't know. It's all we'll know some more when we get down, do some more digging, and try to find some more pieces of it. But
you said you took a Geiger counter to the piece that was at the Historical Society. Did you take a Geiger counter out to the field where the wreckage was?
I did, but it's like I said, it's 3 feet deep, and we didn't find anything close enough. Now I was getting about sometimes a 25 to a 30 count or something like that. Of course, you always get some radiation, beta radiation all off the sun and stuff like that too. A few things around there, but nothing that strong. We're definitely going to take it with us when we go back, and before we handle anything we dig up or whatever, we're going to check it to see,
It's probably a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, like you said, that's not dangerously high, but that is very high for just background radiation. Because
Right,
I've
it
done
is,
some
yeah.
work with Geiger counters and stuff, and I'm pretty familiar with what background is, and that's fairly high for just nothing.
The
So,
baseline in the building was only like a two or three,
yeah.
And I went in, I could put up to it, and it started ticking. I thought, oh, what? So I just held it there, and that's probably 1.5 feet away from it, and it's inside a glass case. So but I should have got him to let me take it out and then just put it right directly onto it and see what it would have got. And I still may do that yet. The guys up there are good friends of mine that run the History Center, and they'd probably let me done it, but there were some other people in there, and I didn't want to cause a disturbance or anything.
Had they reported anything, like, because obviously somebody had to put it in that case? Did they have any ill effects from handling it, or?
Not that I know of. I hadn't heard anything about it, but
Well, something to think about. I don't know.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now, all my books are available on Amazon. I also keep copies here at my house. So I've written 10 of them. The first one I did was called Execution of Murder. It was the early murder cases of Robertson County, Tennessee, 1810 through 1910. And I've got over 20 years of research involved in that one book, with hundreds of miles, put on my truck, looking up stuff on it, But I wrote a book about the Bell Witch.
Okay.
I did a couple of Civil War books. One of them was on the Colonel Sugg. Another one was on the Vigilante Justice, which was the Reconstruction period after the war, And so the Season of the Critters. The other one was my UFO book is called Eye in the Sky. And the first half of the book is strictly Thomas Mantell. It's maybe 120, 130 pages just on the Mantell case. And that's what got me branched off into doing this more intensive research, as I found this more stuff on it. Like I said, the last one is 12 o'clock high. But I do keep them here at the house, too. If you'd rather have a signed copy instead of a copy from Amazon, then you can shoot me an email. My email is ghosthunter911@gmail.com. And if you want one, you can shoot me an email and with your information or whatever, and I'll make sure you get a signed copy delivered to your mailbox. Of course, I have to add postage onto it too. The prices on they show on Amazon don't include postage. The other ones are, I think the other books are usually about $4 or $5 postage. The 12 o'clock high, it's thick. It's a pretty thick book. It's pretty heavy, so it takes about $6 to ship it off. But other than that, I keep them here at the house, and I've mailed out several of them here lately. So hopefully it'll.
You said Ghost Hunter 911 at Gmail?
Ghosthunter911@gmail.com.
Awesome. That is in the comments section of our chat here.
Right.
Both the Amazon links and the email address are available there. So, and the Amazon link is in the show notes for anybody that is driving or listening to this after the fact as well. You can click on that and check out all the books there.
Sounds good.
Awesome, man. I look forward to, it's been a great show today. Great conversation. You are a wealth of knowledge. I'm so happy to have you on the show today. So thank you so much, man.
I'm glad to be here. Sorry, I was almost late.
That's right.
I've been working around with the snow and everything. Kind of make sure our power didn't go out, stuff. So
yeah.
Getting my generators all ready and everything in case I had to fire them up. But so far, so good.
Before you go, we actually have one last question here in the comments. Have you ever heard about Old Green Eyes?
I have heard of that. I've got it on my list to do some research on. I have been to Chickamauga several times. In fact, this Colonel Cyrus Sugg that I wrote about in my book, A Ridge Too Far, he was actually wounded at Chickamauga, and he lived through it. And he went the day or two later and went to a Missionary Ridge, which is right next to it, Chattanooga, and got mortally wounded. They shot him in the knee, and he wouldn't let him take his leg off. It developed gangrene, and he died from blood poisoning. So yeah, I've got that on my list of things to look up. So
there you go.
When I was doing the research for that, so I just haven't got around to doing it yet. But it's on my list. Awesome. Lee
used to live a few miles away from there. She's asked a lot of my guests about that. So when you get that information on Old Green Eyes, you let me know, and we'll have you back on to tell you everything you know about it.
I will sure do that. I was disappointed in Missionary Ridge. It's all a big housing project subdivision now. They have a little marker stuck up here and there. But it wasn't like a normal battlefield. It's just a subdivision now. So I was very disappointed in that.
Wow. Yeah, Lee is very excited to hear everything that you have about Old Green Eyes.
Yeah, I will do some more work on that, and I'll let you know.
Awesome. Sounds good. I look forward to chatting with you again. And when you get your excavation done, let me know, and I will work with you on that as well. So
I will. I've got a little YouTube channel, Cryptids and Critters Paranormal, and I'm doing a few things on it, little small short videos, mostly things that happened in the county, some history stuff, some paranormal stuff, just a mixture of all of it, so just whatever I can think to talk about that day. I'm not the best at it yet, but I'm working on it. So I'm not a professional by any means. I usually co-host with Kyle Connolly in Cryptid Connections every Tuesday night, and I think we're supposed to meet do it Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday, with RPG of Expedition. Used to be with Expedition Bigfoot. He's going to be our guest that night. So
very cool.
But, just glad you had me on here. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely. It's been great, man. I'd love to have you back. Let me know what else you're working on and what you got coming up.
Anytime. I got plenty to talk about.
Sounds good, man. Thank you so much, and take care.
Thank you. I need to hang around a few, or
if you want. Yep, sure.
I mean, there was something said to hang on until the recording.
Oh yeah, it's got to
stopped, whatever.
upload at the end. Yep.
Okay.
All right, man. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right, guys, that is our show for this week. We are going to be back again live next week. We have MK Davis and Todd Gatewood are going to be on the show next week. It's going to be an awesome show. They have done some really cool work with the Patterson-Gimlin footage, and they're going to be here to talk all about that as well. So that is coming up next week on Monsters on the Edge. Same time, same place, and I'll see you there. I'll see you on the edge.